epic battles, monsters, and songs about penis.
Toss a coin to your Witcher, O Valley of Penis!
Season 1 of Netflix's The Witcher is here, and I gotta say, it's better than the last season of Game of Thrones.
Best season ever!
In this video, we're gonna break down The Witcher's ending because, let's face it, even if you've read the books and played the games with hundreds of different characters and jumps in time, it can get a bit confusing. And you're gonna want to stick around till the end of the video, as we'll be going over that mysterious wish Geralt made with the djinn and how it could affect his relationship with Yennefer and the events of Season 2. So take a relaxing bath and toss a coin to your Witcher, because here we go. The last episode, entitled Much More, is really a continuation of the events that happened all the way back in episode 1. The kingdom of Cintra has been attacked by the southern forces of Nilfgaard, and our hero, Geralt of Rivia, is on the lookout for the young Princess Cirilla. But why is there this giant gap in time from episode 1 to 8? Well, that has to do with the way executive producer and showrunner Lauren Hissrich decided to tell the story. Think of it as following two timelines, the first being set in the past, which follows characters like Geralt and Yennefer and explores their origins. These include stories like the Djinn in the Bottle from the book The Last Wish, or that of Borch the Golden Dragon in The Sword of Destiny. The second timeline occurs in what we could call the Witcher's present day. Queen Calanthe of Cintra loses the battle against Nilfgaard and orders her granddaughter, Princess Cirilla, to seek out the Witcher known as Geralt. That's because Geralt and Ciri are inextricably linked through a custom called the Law of Surprise. Imagine if I saved your life, but you have nothing to repay me with. I can choose to invoke this law, which basically states you have to give me something of yours which you don't yet know. The line used in the book The Last Wish is, "What you find at home yet don't expect." And this is the driving force behind episode 4. We meet this hedgehog-type creature known as Duny, who is actually a human who was cursed by a sorcerer. The enchantment wasn't properly cast, however, and every night Duny would turn back into his human form. One night while prowling the forest, Duny came across the injured king of Cintra, King Rognar, and saved his life, invoking the Law of Surprise, only for the king to come home and find out his wife was pregnant. The Law of Surprise then stated that the thing he found at home but didn't expect, the child, would then belong to Duny. Fast forward 15 years and Duny has come to Princess Pavada's, or Ciri's mother's, 15th birthday party. He has come to claim Pavada as his bride, but unknown to Calanthe and everyone else at this party, including Geralt and Dandelion, Pavada and Duny had been secretly seeing each other for the past year. Queen Calanthe doesn't like this at all and orders Duny to be executed, but Geralt steps in to help and Pavada unleashes her secret power, a power that will later manifest itself in Ciri. When the queen realizes that destiny cannot be fought, she approves of her daughter's arrangement, which ends Duny's curse, turning him back into a human. Duny then thanks Geralt for saving his life, and in an ironic twist, Geralt says Duny can repay him via the Law of Surprise. What Duny doesn't know is that Pavada is pregnant, therefore Ciri is now linked by destiny to Geralt. Now there's a whole backstory here where Duny and Pavada are killed in a maelstrom at sea, leaving Ciri with her grandmother, but there is more to that story and it will undoubtedly come into play next season, but I don't want to get into spoilers. Geralt ends up turning his back on his prize, this child, only for destiny to bring them together.
Yes, I do, but you can't outrun destiny just because you're terrified of it.
But that's exactly what Geralt plans to do. He doesn't give a shit about destiny.
Destiny can go
Geralt's character arc this season centers around destiny, going from not believing to it to believing in it.
People linked by destiny will always find each other.
Geralt, a man who continually pushes people away, is forced by destiny to come together with a thing that is arguably his exact opposite, a small, weak girl. But as we've seen hinted through the season, Ciri possesses unimaginable power, just like her mother. It's also terribly ironic that Geralt, a man who is left abandoned as a child, ends up abandoning the child that belongs to him. Episode 8 begins with Geralt fleeing a besieged Cintra after being unable to find Ciri. He actually came here before Nilfgaard's arrival, but was tricked by Queen Calanthe by giving him the wrong child. She'll even attempt to assassinate him later on. But the thing about destiny is that it's not to be trifled with. It must be followed.
honor destiny's wish, or unleash its wrath upon us.
The Queen's refusal to accept destiny will become her downfall, literally. Unable to find Ciri, he ventures home toward Kaer Morhen, the Witcher's stronghold, but is stopped when destiny intervenes, unleashing a group of necrophages and seriously wounding Geralt. It's here he experiences several hallucinations, including one of his mother, Visina, who left him as a child to be taken in by the Witchers. Speaking of orphans, Ciri is taken in by a local farmer after having passed out last episode when attacked by a group of Cintran refugees. The extent of Ciri's powers are something that will likely be explored next season, but she wakes up to find her attackers mutilated with having no recollection of what happened. Meanwhile, a rogue group of mages have gone against the wishes of the Brotherhood of Sorcerers and have decided to defend Sodden Hill from Nilfgaard. One such mage is Yennefer of Vengerberg. As a child, Yennefer was disowned by her father because of her deformity, later selling her to a sorceress by the name of Tessia, a rectoress at Aretuza, a magical academy for young ladies. Whereas Geralt's character arc this season ties into destiny, Yennefer's centers around legacy. With no friends or family, Yennefer wants something of hers to live on. The only problem is, when she underwent the enchantment to get rid of her deformities, she had to give something up in return, and that was her ability to have a child. This leads into how magic works in the world of The Witcher. Each spell and conjuring comes at the price of something else. This is displayed in one of Yennefer's first lessons when she has to levitate a rock in exchange for the life of a flower. In the Battle of Sodden Hill, we see how extreme this can get. Fringilla, who commands the mages of Nilfgaard, forces them to essentially drain their entire life into these giant balls of fire and energy. The Nilfgaardian mages, unlike those in the Brotherhood, have no rules when it comes to the use of magic. Demonology, necromancy, and black magic are all fair game for the Nilfgaardians, whereas in the north those areas are either heavily regulated or downright prohibited by the Brotherhood. On the eve of the Nilfgaardian attack, Yennefer vents her disillusionment with life.
It's time to accept that life has no more to give.
The world has been cruel to her. She's even attempted suicide before, and to top it off, she has no legacy to leave behind.
But I've no legacy to leave behind.
For Yennefer, her idea of a legacy is a child, something she cannot have. She spends much of her time looking for a fertility cure, such as in episode 6 when she joins a team of dragon hunters since dragons were said to possess certain fertility healing properties. Or episode 5 when she tries to capture a djinn so she can use it to make her fertile again. Geralt later goes on to tell her there's a reason people like him and her are sterile.
They made us sterile for a lot of reasons. One of the kinder ones is because this lifestyle isn't suited to a child.
Which is ironic since he'll end up with a child at the end of the season. But legacy can come in many forms. Yennefer's definition of legacy is narrow, a child. But when Fringilla tries to recruit her, she talks about how her legacy can be power, something Yennefer has yearned for since most of her life she's been powerless.
There are no limits, only power and potential. That could be your legacy.
Contrast this with Tessia, who says Yennefer's legacy can be saving the continent.
To save these people, this continent. And this is your legacy.
Commanding the Nilfgaardian forces is the main antagonist of the season, Cahir, whose goal this season was the capture of Ciri. This is at the command of the Emperor of Nilfgaard. But why would the Emperor want Ciri? Well, if you don't want spoilers for next season, fast forward about 30 seconds from here. Remember how I said Ciri's parents died in a storm at sea? Well, her dad, Duny, survived and would later become the Emperor of Nilfgaard. So not only does Ciri have this power, but she's also the daughter of one of the most powerful men in the world. I also want to talk briefly about Vilgefortz, who we saw kill a fellow mage near the end of the episode. In the books, he's secretly in league with the Emperor, so this is a thread that will likely be picked up on in Season 2. But back to this big-ass Battle of Sodden, which ends up being more of a battle between mages than it does between armies. Fringilla conjures this device, which doesn't actually make an appearance in the books. It's filled with these worms that burrow themselves into your ear, allowing the opposing force to essentially control you. These worms take control of Sabrina and these children who explode the castle walls from the inside. Because this battle isn't so much about sword fighting, rather mages one-upping each other, we get to see a ton of cool battle mage techniques, like cracking heads, poisonous fungus, and my personal favorite, a portal for the archers to fire through. But since we know mages can only muster so much magic until they're essentially drained, they are eventually overrun, with Yennefer unleashing years of pent-up rage onto the battlefield. I guess she has made her choice. Her legacy will be to save the the continent. But at what cost? After her dramatic display of power, she is nowhere to be found. She's one of the main characters, so I doubt the show has killed her off, plus her want of a child and knowing Geralt and Ciri eventually meet up will make her a fitting mother-type figure for her. We also know Ciri has untapped magical power, which Yennefer can later help her out with. But what makes this all the more complicated is the love affair between Geralt and Yen. Back in episode 5, we learned that Geralt made a final wish with the Djinn, or genie, to save her. But in the show, we the viewer nor Yennefer knows what that wish is. In the book, Yennefer hears what he says, but the reader doesn't. Here's what she has to say from the last wish. "I heard what you wished for. I was astounded, simply astounded. I'd have expected anything but to... What made you do it, Geralt? Why me? I don't know whether such a wish can ever be fulfilled. I don't know whether there's such a force in nature that could fulfill such a wish. But if there is, then you've condemned yourself to me." The biggest theory out there is that Geralt wished for his life to somehow be tied to Yennefer's. This would explain both Yennefer and Geralt surviving the Djinn, since if Yennefer's life is tied to Geralt's and a Djinn can't kill its master, meaning Geralt, that means Yennefer must survive as well. If this is true, it means Yennefer will have also survived the Battle of Sodden since Geralt is still alive. This creates an inseparable link bound by destiny between Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri. Since Ciri is linked with Geralt and Geralt with Yennefer, destiny will pull the three together. When Geralt and Ciri finally do meet in the last scene of the entire season, her first words are, "Who's Yennefer?" That's because she heard him yell her name on the battlefield telepathically. Ciri's powers are still somewhat of a mystery and will likely be the main plot point next season. We already know Geralt was on his way to see Vesemir, the man who trained him to become a Witcher, so it's likely he'll take Ciri to Kaer Morhen, where all Witchers go to train. Overall, I was pretty happy with the first season, but can only imagine how confusing the timeline can be for those who haven't read the books. I'm hoping season 2 will provide a more straight-through narrative and allow our characters more time to cultivate their relationships with one another. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts about the first season below. You can also follow me on Twitter @ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember, Daddy loves you very much.